Nebraska is first, indeed. Hey Greg, what's up, Scoop? Wayne, how's it going? Teaching classes, yeah. I pretty much can do them now. I need to order a few things, but I've decided if I do start doing classes now, it's going to be small group, so 1-2 people. I don't feel like having a larger group, while it is financially advantageous to have larger groups, I feel like having too large of a group kind of limits how much you can actually learn. So I think what I'm going to do is start out doing classes of 1 or 2 people at a time. What's up, Nate? A wild live stream appears, indeed. What's up, Rob? I'm waiting to see if Ashley's going to get me a drink. I think she is. Quality over quantity? I agree. I've got 2 setups. I've got Micah has his setup in Franklin, and then I've got mine I could take down there. I just need to order some supplies, really, but that's about it. And I need to really sit down with an itinerary. What I had planned on doing is starting with people that I kind of know. That way I can kind of gauge how effective it is. No one-on-one class. I mean, if you want a one-on-one class, we can do that, Wayne. What's up, Andy? Yeah, I try to stream every now and then. I don't get as much time because it's me by myself most of the time. So streaming, taking care of customers, working on walk-in stuff, all that kind of stuff, it kind of becomes a little overwhelming. I wish I had Lewis to set up where I'm in a back room where nobody can really see me or anything. That way I can just do whatever I want. Got the no servers figured out. 1778. Not compatible with Verizon. It should be compatible with Verizon. I thought the iPhones now were universally made. I know there's a difference in one of the AT&T versions for the 6S that had a different frequency on the LTE bands, but I could have sworn the rest of them were universal. Where's Micah? Micah's currently off right now. His mom passed away, so he'll be off for a little bit. And then he came in to work the other day, but he went home. He usually works down at Franklin. Ordered something off of eBay Tuesday, Wednesday. Got notice it shipped, but in fact only waybill generated from Canadian Post. Discovered tonight that merchants here in town have to wait 4 to 3 to get them. That sounds good, Nate. Time for hired help. We've been looking into that, yeah. It would help me with mail-in. Mail-in can be a little overwhelming because I have to handle a lot of the walk-in too and the mail-in. And then the main thing about mail-in that takes so long is disassembly of devices. But I would much rather get devices as a piece together, because what happens is, and it's happened before, is I'll fix the problem that's wrong with their motherboard and they'll get it back and they'll be like, well, something else isn't working. And I'm like, well, it worked fine in our test housing. And then they're like, well, something's not right. So they send the whole device back, and then it turns out like a microphone's bad or a screen's bad or something. So does it include airfare to Western Australia? No. Just book like 2 years in advance. It'll be like $30 or something. Anyway, so today's video is to address Apple's small amount of devices affected. That's why there's the fingers underneath me. That's a small amount of devices. It's always the catchphrase that Apple uses to kind of say, this isn't a big problem, trust us, it's not a huge deal, when actually it's a huge deal. Touch IC, they released the same statement about that. The baseband problems for the iPhone 7s had the same thing, the 1660s or whatever they were. Like, there's a lot of problems that Apple tries to roll under the carpet and act like they're not a big deal when they actually are. And the audio IC problems with the 7 and 7 Plus are one of those things where Apple actually released a replacement program for just a short amount of time, and it was not publicly announced. And then they ended it because they said there weren't enough devices showing up for audio problems. And I just wanted to say that I just finished an audio IC because I had to get it done before stream. I was going to do it on stream, but the customer was coming back to pick it up. But today alone, I have on my stack here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that would have been 7 audio ICs in one day. And we did 2 yesterday. So to say audio IC problems are not a big problem is just a blatant lie. It's again where Apple is trying to deny their responsibilities as a manufacturer. And then the kicker for me is the phones like the 1660, the 7s that do have baseband problems, they're denying people with a known issue that they know is their fault. They know it's a design flaw in the actual motherboard where the deflection of the board is causing a ground separation underneath of the baseband PMIC, a ground wire that is required for the LDO internal to that IC, which takes the VCC main voltage and drops it down to like 1.2 volts or something like that for baseband. And when it loses that ground, it's getting spikes in voltage, which is frying the baseband CPU. And those all stem from the Qualcomm chipset. The Intel chipsets don't have that problem. That's why I'm starting to see now most of the phones that have audio IC problems that don't have searching problems, they're all going to be model 1778s. The 1778s all have the Intel chipsets. They don't have the main issues with the baseband. I've seen quite a few of them. I assume they've replaced quite a few and people have upgraded and got rid of them, but the people that I know that have these phones that have turned them in, they get denied. They get denied from everything from there's a dent in the frame, or the screen's cracked, or you had it worked on, so it can't be our fault. Do I own a TriStar tester? No. I'll show you my TriStar tester. It costs like $12. You can buy it on Mobile Centrics or eBay for even less. This is my TriStar tester. The cheap ass KZ charge boards. If you plug this into a power supply, you supply it with 5 volts on the input. You may be able to use it from a USB charger too, but I use a power supply, just a bench power supply. 5 volts coming in, and then I plug in my lightning cable to the USB output on this thing. So on the iPhones, if you plug in the USB outlet here and you plug in it to the phone itself and you disconnect the battery, so disconnect the battery from the phone, plug it in. If this draws current and you get an Apple logo on the screen, that means TriStar is working. If you get 0 current draw, that means TriStar is either not working or Tigris is not taking the voltage from USB and boosting it. Usually it is TriStar. It is very, very rarely Tigris. Tigris is usually liquid damage or physical damage that causes it not to work anymore, or the cap on the LX like AC whatever, the alternating current line that comes out of it's the LX line that comes out is bad. Sucks you guys in the US don't have customer laws, minimum warranty, iPhone is 3 years. Yeah, I mean, it's true, Wayne. Like, they don't have, like, they have a 1-year limited warranty, but Apple literally is making up any excuse they can not to cover this problem. I had a customer bring in a phone that the screen had been replaced on it, and he was having service problems, but this was like months after the screen had been replaced. And he was like, do you know what's wrong with it? And I was like, I'm pretty sure I know what's wrong with it. I was like, let's call Apple. So they set up an appointment. He goes down to Apple. Apple opens it up there at the store, and they're like, we can't replace this because your screen's been replaced. It's been tampered with. So he brings it back, and he's like, so what can I do? So I call down there, and I explained to them. I called the help center. I don't call the store, but I explained to them, I'm like, why is it a known problem with your all's phone? You're denying somebody because they had a screen replaced. I was like, that makes no sense whatsoever. And they said, well, we don't know what's happened to the phone. It could have caused the problem. I was like, how are you going to tell somebody that this caused the problem when you know it's a manufacturing problem on your end? How can you blame it on somebody else? And they're like, well, it's not our issue because the phone has been opened. That voids the warranty. I was like, this is not a warranty issue. This is a recall. You all have extended out a recall replacement program for an issue that you know is wrong with your device. It has the symptoms of that issue, and now you're telling him that you're not going to replace it because the screen was broken at one point and he had a new screen put on it. A screen does not affect service. And I asked him, I was like, do you agree that a screen does not affect the service? He's like, yeah. And I went through 4 supervisors talking to them, and then finally one guy I talked to 3 times, and I explained to him, and it's the most simplest thing you can do is relate phones to something that's relatable to most people. I always do it with automotive stuff, and I was like, and I posted this in the forums, I told him, I was like, so tell me this, if you went to your local dealership, Honda, Chevy, whoever, Ford, I usually use Chevy, it's just one I remember. I was like, if you walk in there and you got to notice that your car has problems with a known engine issue, and your car is showing those symptoms of an engine problem, and you walk in and they come out and they look at your car and they're like, well, sir, we can't fix your engine because you've had your windshield replaced in your car. I was like, would you be happy with that customer service if they told you they would not fix a known fault that they know is their issue with an engine because the windshield on your truck had been replaced or your car had been replaced? I was like, would you not just be completely irate? And he was like, yeah, I wouldn't be okay with that. And I guess that was enough to tip him over the edge, because then he called the store. They said they would do a replacement on it, and the guy took it down there and got it replaced. So it's just really, really stupid how dishonest they are with their customers. So that's mostly what this video is about. This is another dishonest Apple situation where they minimize their costs by lying to customers. That's all this is. There's no other explanation for it other than this is a big problem. There's a lot of phones here with audio IC problems, but they're saying it's not an issue and they don't have to cover it. So it really, like, little things like that with Apple are what make me despise, like, the company itself. Like, I think Apple makes good products. I think they're overpriced, but I think they're good products. And I think the fact that they charge a premium for their products for customers, I would think that they would be like, hey, they pay a premium for this shit, maybe we should give premium customer service back. But no, it's just like, screw you, go buy another phone, we don't care. Yeah, they do sell refurbished stuff, which is fine. Refurbished is fine. Most of the iPhone 7 baseband problems, they're swapping out to the newer chipsets, so that's an actually solution for them. But they still have audio IC problems, so it's still an issue. Anyway, that's enough ranting. I'm going to start knocking out these boards. I'll probably get through a few of them. I'm not going to get through all of them because that'll probably take all night. But I'll do probably 2 or 3, which will probably take about an hour or so. Probably an hour and a half. Taking them apart, honestly, is the longest part of this. Come on, tweezers, grab the sticker. So, I've shown a video on how I do my repairs. Walter, I have a quick question. How do you test a capacitor in circuit with a multimeter? You can't always test the capacitor in circuit. Because if they're in series, you're going to be reading capacitance across all of them. You'll have to pull it out of circuit and then test it. What, did Anthony mess up? No, that's still over on the shelf. I don't have any what's Anthony messed up. Anthony's gotten better, evidently. Anthony, I need you to not be as good as what you're doing. So, like before, me make sure that's in focus. Get in focus. You can see the end of my tweezers. I bend them in so they're like little hooks. One's bent more than the other, but it's fine. I do that so when I'm grabbing this, I see they don't slip off as easy. You don't want them to slip because it will damage the chip. If it does damage the chip, just throw it in the trash. There's no sense in risking it and putting it on the board and saying, well, I hope it doesn't mess up. These are bare glass silicate die, so any chips in them can damage circuitry inside of them. Flux isn't necessarily needed to take the chip off, but I always like to because it kind of helps facilitate the solder to go liquid. So I'm holding the board off the table right now with my tweezers. I'm just barely putting pressure. And now I'm just going to hold my hot air just over the chip. I don't need to like wave it around. I'm trying to stay on this chip mostly. I'm just going back and forth to kind of spread the heat evenly. Because I am at an angle, I don't know exactly where my hot air is hitting the chip. So I want to make sure I get it good and even across it. And then it should drop here in a second. There it goes. So it dropped off. I've got my chip. I didn't slip off of it. It's not damaged. I didn't crush it or anything like that. So this is going to be reusable. And for guys that are doing this themselves, if you're reusing the chip, it's a great cost savings to you because you're saving yourself a couple bucks every time on these. And I know it's only a couple dollars, but after you do quite a few of them, you'll save yourself quite a bit of money. Got any of the rainbow sheen phones? I don't know. We'll see, I guess, when we open them. A lot of people are like, that gets posted all the time. And they're like, what is this? I'm like, people have been posting about this since the 5S. Like, look it up. It's just the cleaning detergent that Apple uses. They don't get it all cleaned off. So it's left on the board. And I do recommend if you have a board with it on there and you're about to work on it, you clean that off with alcohol first because that detergent leaves a film behind that can actually prevent the chips from coming off the board when they should. And you can cause yourself more problems because you'll keep heating up the chip thinking it's not liquid yet when in fact it is liquid, and the detergent film is what's holding it in place. I had one like that on an iPhone 7 and luckily I realized, I was like, this should have come off already, and I quit. So when I felt like it had gone over the time that it should have taken for it to come off, I pulled my heat away and let it cool. And then I noticed when I ran my tweezers down the side of the chip, that detergent coating came off in like almost like an underfill, but it was real thin. But it definitely was holding the chip in place. Read chat here. Need to finally get around to a GPU bypass on 2011. Wish I had a backlight adjust. You can do the backlight adjust, Aaron, by doing, there's a secondary chip that they make now. It's a control board, and you can wire it in to do it. But backlight adjustment, I mean, honestly, who doesn't run their screen at full brightness 99% of the time? 2011 with chime, but no display, stupid GPUs. Anthony, you can bypass the GPU on those. I've done it before, and it works like a charm. And it's a hardware method, so you can update the computer, you can PRAM reset it, you can SMC reset it, you can do whatever the hell you want and it'll stay. Spectre, I agree. Apple's response, you're doing everything wrong. You're everything wronging it. You're doing it all wrong. Guy I work with has 7 Plus had audio issues after iOS update. He had Apple Care, so he sent it to the depot in California. They tore the flux cables on the screen and claimed it was unauthorized modification. Rob, that sounds just like some shit that would happen too. Mobile device, less backlight, more battery. Yeah, true. But most Apple people are sitting in coffee shops anyway, so you're near a charger. But they do make a backlight controller that you can buy. Hold on, I'll find the link for it because I actually looked it up. When I first saw the how-to on it, I was like, it would be really cool if somebody made a board, like they do for the Reset Glitch Hack Xbox 360s, that just sits down in place and you just tack solder points down. And a guy actually made one of those. I hope I bookmarked it. They called it the Mux Hat, is what it's called. MUXHAT. I'm going to link the website, and he is currently sold out, but he is taking pre-orders on them. And I'm going to be ordering some because I'll be doing some for a company hopefully soon. And this should make it a lot faster than running a bunch of jumpers. So that's the website for the Mux Hat. So essentially what that repair is doing is it's bypassing the GPU mux, which is the controller that switches from the internal to external graphics whenever the firmware loads up, or the software loads up on the Mac as it loads. And this way it will run off the Intel integrated graphics. Yeah, they had them on eBay. They're sold out currently though. You don't have to buy that. You can do it with jumper wires. I've done a couple of them that way. I'm actually trying to buy some. I'm trying to buy one right now because I want to have a. I use just the 13-inch right now in store to fix Macs and stuff. But I'd like to have a 15-inch. It's a little bigger computer that I can work on. So I'm actually going to buy one so I can do Mac repairs on it. Have a little better screen. Have a little more viewing area. So you can see this is actually an Intel chipset also. A lot of these have been upgraded to the Intel chipsets already. The phone must be kept in zero gravity vacuum chamber and never touched. Yeah, it's true, Spectre. Don't even look at it. If you look at it wrong, you're using it wrong. You've already affected the internal circuitry by even looking at the phone. Just know that Apple has created the phone that you can't see, you don't need to look at. What do you mean, Aaron? Your bearded saber? You talking about the backlight chip thing that they made? Yeah. That backlight thing's pretty cool. It's a secondary system, but it works well. It's definitely worth a look if you have customers that come in with the 2011s and the 2010s. You can do it on both of them. There's a little different wiring between the two. Originally when I started doing, I was going off a guy's wiring that he did for a 2010 model, and the 10 is slightly different on the wiring. If you do it the way the 10 is, you'll get really weird graphical distortion, and not all the time will the LCD display turn on. When I found a guy that had done an 11, and he ran two of the wires to a different spot on the board, and when I did that, it fixed it. And I've stress tested the crap out of these things, like run CPU benchmarks on them, no problems. They get warm, but I mean, that's all fucking Macs. They're all junk ass airflow. Beats the OEM option, yeah. Yeah, the Intel baseband is much smaller, and if you notice, it's also moved much further off that deflection point. So your deflection point is right here, runs across here, and you can see it's moved quite a bit distance away. I watched Jess's stream on this, and I saw her do her jumper with the slack in it. I don't disagree with that. I think she's perfectly fine in that assumption to leave slack, just like the Touch ICs. But I can say I have not seen any returns from running a solid jumper down the trace on these. The only reason I don't leave the slack, and she also didn't use any underfill, which I mean, maybe it's just a skill thing or something, but I have several of them that have slipped under the chip or moved on me whenever reflowing without having any conformal coating on them. And it's not worth the time saving of a few, like 30 seconds to me to skip that portion. So again, this is going to be the same process for all these. We're going to tin our wire. We're going to lay it on our trace. Okay, it's on there. It's probably a little hard to see. It's probably reflective for you all. It is for me too, so. But I'll show you after. These are tacked down. It's tacked to the resistor and it's tacked to the trace. Cut off the end. Tin a little more of the wire. Lay it on the trace and just, well, touch the end of it there. And the good thing is that the amount of heat transfer that occurs down the wire, it solders itself to both ends. See, I can't move that wire. It's stuck to the capacitor too, and I didn't even touch that end. It's just because the iron's hot enough that the heat transfers from where I'm touching it here, and it solders pretty much the entire line all at once. The backlight thing, I thought about what they pretty much did. It's just a buck converter that has a control on it. Now, the one thing that I couldn't ever do would be the software side of it. Like, I would have to have some type of manual button or controller for it. They developed both the hardware and the software for it, which is awesome. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it may even work with the factory keys. I don't remember. I know they have a manual controller that you can adjust at the top of the screen, but I think it even works with the keys. But overall, it's impressive. All right, my iron is fucking up. Ever since I replaced my tweezers, my hot tweezer ends, it's my Hako has just been bitching about them. I'm probably gonna have to order new ones. These are brand new though. I just switched them out because one of my other ones died on me the other day, and it just constantly was like showing error, then it was fine, then error, then fine, then error, then fine. It kept doing that back and forth, and I kind of got pissed off at it. I was like, fuck it, replace both of them. Paul Daniels has over 10,000 subs now on YouTube. Yep, Paul's channel's growing. Paul deserves every bit of it too. I remember when Paul first started, and he was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I was like, dude, do it. I remember when we first, we got Paul enough money so he could get a microscope to start to stream stuff, and now, I mean, I kept pushing him and pushing him and pushing him to start charging money for his software, and he finally has a paid option and a free option, which is absolutely awesome. The free option will more than pay for itself, and the paid option, if you do any type of MacBook repairs, you're going to pay for his software in one repair, so it's a great way to give back to him. I haven't bought it yet. I don't work on many Macs, but I have been seeing them more, so I'm probably going to get it because the cross-referencing between the schematic and the board view is amazing. It's a great utility to have. Alright, so all those are soldered. I never thought this is something I'd be doing, but found Lewis, then you, then Jessa, and now I'm doing some stuff that you guys do. Is there a way to do GPU bypass without the mux hat? Yeah, Anthony, you can do the bypass with just jumpers. I'll send you the documentation I have on it. The mux hat just makes it easier. It doesn't make it any different. There's nothing special about it. The mux hat is literally just a PCB that does all the connections for you internally, so you don't have to run a bunch of wires. You just put it on and solder it in place. You don't have to do anything else. With the bypass doing wires, you have to run jumper wires for everything. Are my tweezers Hako? No, these are now, I haven't updated it in the description, but these are made by a Chinese company called Best. The model number is BST-16s. They're pretty close to the Hakos that I used to use, but they're far cheaper. You can buy these out of China for like a few dollars a piece. You can buy them on eBay for really cheap too. Not as cheap, but still cheap. Alright, so all my jumpers are soldered well. So you can see how I run them. They're soldered on this end, there, and then they're soldered to the pad. And most of these are loose. Like, see, I can move that wire. This one is pretty rigid, but I don't foresee this wire breaking. The issue is more how thin these pads are. They break so easily. I used the GPU switching tool to make it stay on integrated, but I guess it didn't work right. Switching tool? Like software, Anthony? Greg, what do you remember when Paul got his microscope? Yeah, I'm glad that Paul stuck with it. He's very intelligent. I like Paul. He's a good person. I don't get to talk to people as much as I used to. I wish I did, but everything's just so hectic right now. Like, I try to get out of here and spend time with Cassidy, so as he's growing up, that way he's a normal child. Although he's very abnormal right now. He's like any other kid, I'm sure. Just crazy. At night, before he goes to bed, he likes to scream as loud as he can. Not in anger or anything, he just likes to yell. Yeah, Anthony, so what you're doing there is you're putting in a custom parameters inside the PRAM, and by setting the PRAM to ignore the dedicated graphics and stay on the internal graphics, and then you're supposed to delete out the essentially the driver for the dedicated graphics inside PRAM. And that's why it works, because you're bypassing it by pretty much telling the software don't pay attention to it. The only drawback to that is if the system's ever updated or PRAM's ever reset, all that goes away. So with the hardware bypass, it doesn't go away, period. It's always bypassed the external graphics and only works on the integrated inside the Intel chipset. And it even changes it if you go in after you do the modification and you look at the system information. It even changes it and says that it's running on the Intel graphics. It doesn't even list anything about the secondary graphics. And you don't have to do any crazy firmware modification either. It'll work on the factory firmware, so you can update it without problem. What's with the box with hand pinching something? Spectre, that's kind of signifying how Apple always says it's a small problem. Only a small amount of things have been affected, when in reality it's a large amount of things that have been affected. If she's concerned about data, I mean, that's hard drive. Just pull the hard drive. Yeah, I try to tell customers, like, those computers have problems, common issues. I don't like to sell them, just because it's kind of a special situation where customers have to understand what's going on, and some customers just don't understand it, so they can't contemplate, like, why things don't work exactly the way they should. So, like, when they don't have brightness control like it normally has without that secondary brightness controller, I don't want to have to explain that to them. I mean, I guess I can offer the brightness controller too, but I'd rather keep it simple and just avoid those models, period, unless they bring them in for repairs. Yeah, very small number, not even worth reporting. Not even worth replacing. There's a small number of audio ICs affecting people. Touch IC was a small issue too. The GPU was a small issue that affected some people. Apple didn't even report that one. They had to be sued before they had to report it. What else was a small issue in the history of Apple devices? The baseband issue was a small problem. What else? Recently they released the SSD issue that occurs with the new 13-inch, the non-touch bar models. That's a small issue. They had what Lewis had addressed a while back about the keyboard issues with the newer Macs, where they're replacing the keyboards under warranty now because that was a small problem. Everything's a small problem with Apple. No major problems. Touch IC wasn't a big problem. They had very few people return with that issue, evidently. Probably because they just got sold shitty devices over and over and people finally gave up and bought something else. My hot tweezers? Oh yeah, my hot tweezers are Hako. They don't make them anymore now. These were, I bought these from a company, they're old stock. They had maybe 20 in stock. I bought 3 of them. Yeah, the ribbon cable issue with the displays on them. Yep. That's the new small issue. It's not a big problem. Don't worry about it. Alright, so I'm going to reball the audio IC. I'm keeping my heat far away. I don't want this to melt.
Hello. Is it me you're looking for?
Spectre. Hello? Is it me you're looking for? Alright, so we got our chip reballed there. We'll put some flux on that and reflow it again real quick. Thank you, Spectre. Slowing down phones because of batteries. Okay, so the slowing the phones down because of the batteries thing, here's what I'll say about it. The battery problem wasn't necessarily an issue with Apple. Apple really wasn't wrong for the batteries going bad because these are devices that are several years old. The problem is Apple had a good solution to try to help keep these phones going. But instead of just being open and honest and saying, hey customers, our batteries as they age will not be able to supply enough amperage and instant power delivery for the CPU under heavy loads. In these situations, it will be smart for us to slow down the CPU so that you're not having random shutdown issues. I don't remember if I reflowed this. I'm just going to do it again just for the hell of it. And that's perfectly fine. That's a smart thing to do because it does address the problem. But Apple should have come out and said it, and they should have also made it optional. They should have been like, you can turn this off if you don't like it. And we are actively putting this in your phone. But they did it completely the wrong way, and they just put it in without customer input at all or customer notification. And it made it seem like Apple was just intentionally slowing phones, when in reality they're not. They really are just trying to prevent the phones from shutting off, because if you think about it in computer terms. If I have a 400 watt power supply and I'm running a giant graphics card and some Threadripper, and the Threadripper's like chugging along just normal, doing whatever, and the graphics card's doing something and it's processing some image or whatever, some video game, and then like something happens in say a game and the CPU has to load a bunch of stuff in really fast, and the CPU's like, alright, give me power, and the power supply's like, I ain't got enough for you, bro. I ain't got enough. What happens? The computer crashes. So it's the same methodology between the two, just terrible execution on Apple's part. What about the new iPads fluxing? That's just stupid Apple design. I get the draw to thinner, more sleek devices. I know they look better and more appealing. But you have to think at some point when they're designing these, they have to stop and say to themselves, alright guys, this is really thin. What structural issues will we have with this device by having it so thin? And then they have to address those. And if it means sacrificing some of the thinness of the device, then I'm sorry to say, but you're just going to have to sacrifice some of the thinness of the device. I would much rather have a device that can hold up and doesn't flex from just putting it in a backpack or doing this. Yeah, replace CPU, bro. That's the truth. That's pretty much what's going to happen with those iPads, because they bend right on the CPU part. Speaking of CPU replacements, it's been pretty impressive of the guys that are doing them now. I know Rico's doing them, and then there's another guy that's been doing them too. I just don't. I wish I had time to do that stuff. I just don't. I've messed around with doing SD-RAM removals, and I can remove them fine. I still have problems with getting them reballed. Well, I can reball them fine. I can't get them to fucking seat back properly. But I just don't see many CPU problems, and when I do, it's just not, for the most part, most people don't give a shit about the data. They're just like, I want my phone to work. I'm like, well, I'm not spending however many hours working on this and then find out it doesn't work just so you can have a phone that functions. I can't imagine how much they charge for that. I would hope that they're charging a premium for that type of service. It may be easy after practice, but for them, the amount of time and practice they put in, they better be charging good money for it. Qualcomm searching problem by iPhone 7. Yes, the solution is take it to Apple and replace it because it's their problem. There's no fix for it. It's an internal short inside baseband CPU. Baseband CPU is programmed to the motherboard and it cannot be replaced. The home button flex or the flood illuminator, I've done both of them. I will say G-Lon's flex repair thing is fucking awesome. You just have to hope that it's not ripped too far back. I had one that was ripped further back, and the G-Lon repair kit, I put it on there, but it was so far ripped back that there were some internal traces that that went to the actual home button fingerprint scanner that I couldn't catch. I even scraped the whole thing back and hooked it straight to the vias, and it still didn't work. The illuminator is actually really easy. If you turn your heat way down when you're doing those, you can transfer that stuff without really damaging it. Like, I ran my heat at like 200 degrees Celsius when I was working on those at low airspeed, and it works pretty well. They come right off, they don't melt. Alright, so I've got my UV coating, all my jumper wires are held down. You want to make sure you go back over and scrape the wire, make sure that you expose a little bit of the copper and make sure that that coating is not on top of your wire. So you want to make sure that you got copper exposed a little bit there. Now we'll put our IC back on. We need to see our orientation, so where's our IC? We got it in the right area. And now we'll put a little bit of flux down. And I've started getting in the habit, I actually rotate the board now when I put these on. This way I'm putting heat towards the NAND, which the NAND, it takes quite a bit of heat to get it up to temperature, and it takes even more of a time to actually get these to bridge under this chipset, so it's usually pretty safe to direct heat towards it. And now I'm just going to heat this chip up. I don't want it to move too much until the flux under it has had time to melt and kind of get liquid. That way it's not just going to float my chip off into the nether regions. Alright, so the chip kind of settled there a little bit, meaning that the flux is kind of taken in place, so it should just drop into place now as I heat this up. Alright, so there it goes, and it's dropped down. Heat it for a split second more. Okay, nudged it, it came back. Whenever I nudge these, I just clip the corner. So that way if you hit it and you like shove it across the board, if you come like at an angle across the end, it'll just barely flick it and you'll see it twist and pop back. And you can check and see if these are flat by looking down the end here. And it looks pretty level that way, and it looks level that way. You can always compare it to the capacitors around it. The capacitors are pretty flat across the top. I think the home button, I have an odd Qualcomm failure in my stack. No output from baseband PMU, but no shorts. Ran diagonal ground jumper and replaced baseband PMU. Phone now shows IMEI settings, but if I dial *#06# and no service still, but baseband PMU works. Shows modem firmware and settings too. Rob, you might check. So when you dial *#06#, do you get the IMEI or no? So what I'm doing right now is I'm just cleaning up that stuff. I'm almost out of alcohol. I gotta go get more soon. No IMEI. So, unfortunately, if you still have no IMEI, you still have a baseband issue. You could have... So, the iPhone 6 Plus common fault that caused no IMEI was the reference data line. The ref data 1 or ref data 0 or whatever the fuck it was. That line talks to all the signal chips. So, what I would do is compare what the 6 Plus... What the 6 Plus had common issues that caused no IMEI on star pound 06 pound. I would check that same line and see if maybe it's reading open or something, or it's low or high or anything like that. The iPhone 7 series, what I've noticed, and I'll show you, one of the transceiver ICs that's on this end down here, I've seen it shorted a lot. And I don't know why it shorts, but this one, Intel's is different, but on the Qualcomm's, this chipset down here shorts all the time for some reason, and I don't know why. But I've seen this chip shorted at least 4 or 5 times on phones that have baseband PMIC problems. Usually, though, you'll have a short over here near the Qualcomm chipset that goes over to this chip, and that's usually what it is. It's not on... I don't believe it's on the 1B2 line that normally shorts. It's on a different line. But it is near the Qualcomm chipset over here. So I'm going to continue cleaning this. I'm still waiting on Union Repair to come out with the back stickers for these. For the 7 series. Somebody in China has to have access to those. Is that chip paired? No, it's not paired. The only thing that's paired is the baseband CPU inside in the baseband circuit. That's the only thing that's paired. Well, I take that back. Not the only thing. The baseband EEPROM is also paired. So don't mess with the EEPROM. So I'm going to try to make this look as factory as I can by just kind of polishing up my chips here after I'm done. This isn't necessary, but it does make it look a little better. You can just kind of go over everything, wipe it down, make it look all pretty, get rid of any grossness. So everybody's nice and shiny now, looking new, as close to new as we can get. Did anyone ever figure out the issue with the iPad Mini 1 2 where no power, no charge, no matter what you did? If you had one for me, you did PMIC a few times, no fix. PMIC is usually the cause of that, Anthony, but it can be other things. I've got an iPad Air here that was doing the charging while off and dead, and I put 3 new PMICs on it, and it still doesn't fucking work, and I'm tired of putting $30 chips on there. So I've given up on it, but I did TriStar on it, I did a charge port on it, and I did a 3 PMICs on it, and it still does not charge correctly. The battery lines look fine on it. I just kind of gave up on it. At this point, it's just not worth it. Alright, so let's test this out. Random shields in the bag. Is there any screws in there with it? Doesn't look like it. I'll give it back to him. We can put it together. So the main things we're going to test once we turn this on, we want to check for make sure baseband is working. We want to see that the IMEI is there and all that stuff. Just random shields stuck to everything. We also want to make sure that audio IC is now functioning properly. This one's got new front flex, new screen, and now is also getting an audio IC. I had an audio IC, the first one I did today was actually on iOS 11 still, so it had the slow, laggy touch symptoms that the older iOS had. On iOS 12, if you haven't seen audio IC prior to iOS 12, iOS 12, the common symptoms are slow boot with no audio device found in the audio recorder. On the iOS 11, you could get into audio recorder. It was just grayed out. It had slow boot and it had delayed touch. Alright, so we'll see if this battery's charged. Doesn't look like it. Thank you, Nebraska. I appreciate it. $4.99. Do I have to pay tax on that $4.99? Alright, so this one, the battery is dead on, so I'm just going to hook it up with my external power so I can test it. Why is my voltage not set? Alright. Save that. Okay, so let me hook up my wires here. Is there a link between Rua and Union Repair? Rua just doesn't respond to the emails. No, I don't think they're linked. I don't think they're the same company. Union Repair is kind of their own thing. Sven, he owns that one. They're a good company though. I like them a lot. I'm looking for the different stickers and stuff so I can make these things look new on the inside. It's hard to source some of them, so it's turning on right now. We'll wait and see if it boots up or how long it takes to boot up. Make sure our audio IC was done correctly. It shouldn't take very long to boot if we did it correctly. It should get brighter here in a second too. Also, I had the heart attack of the iOS 11 boot. Alright, so we're booted up, we're in recovery mode. And we need a password. That's good. So I can't even test this, I don't think. Recover data. Oh, we do have a passcode. Sweet. Attempting to recover data. Well, we'll have to wait for that to finish. Hopefully it doesn't reboot on us. Taxes, really? I don't know. Did they tax it? No, I was talking about $4.99. Like whenever you see something on sale, it's like, it's $4.99. It's not $5, it's $4.99, sir. It's currently attempting data recovery. And it just looped. So that probably means I'm going to have to put an iPhone 7 battery in it to keep it on. The power supply doesn't supply any battery data on those cables, so the phone freaks out and restarts. So I'll just put a known good battery in it. We'll let it boot back up with a good battery. Hey Christopher, what's going on? How's the new shop going? Franklin's actually growing a little bit now. It's getting a little better. Hopefully we can do some schooling down there and then we can increase the amount that it's making permanently. Tap to recover. Alright, we'll let that run. Any questions? Questions? Anybody got questions? I can clean up my mail-in shelf. It is dirty. There's shit everywhere on it. I got like 2 or 3 MacBooks on it torn apart, which don't need to be up here. iPhone 6 battery percentage 1% after connecting to a charger. Usually the battery percentage, I'll show you on camera here. Usually the reason that the battery percentage stays at 1, and this should be the first thing you check. Although the iPhone 6, it's not very common. You could have the Tigris issue. If you hook it up to 3U tools, do you get any battery data? So the first things you should check are, this has flux in it, but imagine this doesn't have flux and it's a perfectly pristine board that hasn't been just absolutely mutilated for pleasure. It's missing some stuff. For some reason this board won't turn on. Somebody tell me why this won't turn on. What? Oh, you're on the phone. You're on stream.
Hi.
Hi, stream. Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
If
if the pins on the inside of the connector here are out to where you can see them, like they're tensioned well, because sometimes these can sink like back into the middle, what you're gonna have to do is run a jumper under Tigris, and you'll have to make a voltage divider with two 2.2 kilo ohm resistors in between the AP to Tigris SWI line and VCC main and ground. That's an impressively wrecked board. Yeah, these boards get mutilated for parts. I take a lot of parts off these things. If the chips though look like crap, like this one where it's chipped a little, I don't mess with them. This one you can see I pulled EEPROM off. I was doing some testing with it. I've used PMIC on this one. I've used both of the touch IC, the audio IC, and the NFC. I think that's NFC, part of the NFC circuit. I've taken CPU off on this one. Was doing this for testing to see if I could get it off without lifting any used pads. All the ones that are missing are NC, but my ground pads are a little overworked. As you can see, they're interconnected. I've taken backlight circuit off this one, all the caps on that circuit. I've taken FPCs off. I've taken image filters off. I've got a lot of boards like this though. I've got a whole bag of iPhone 6 boards. This is all 6 boards. And all of them are kind of similar. Like, see, I've taken chips off this one. And then I got another one here. Here's another 6 board. So I've taken, this one's water damaged. PMIC, audio IC, both touch controls, Wi-Fi, baseband, some of the, well, that one probably practice. This, the signal ICs, FPCs off of this one. It's good to have scrap boards to pull from. Does the iPhone 7 have the same audio issue as the Plus model? Apple only sees the 7 Plus as defective, excluding the 7. I have 7 iPhone 7s here with audio IC issue today. I've already, this is the second one done. We're just waiting on it to complete its data recovery, which is almost halfway done. Where did you learn these tips about using the resistor? And like, there was some guys out of China that had, I guess, figured it out. So what happens is the CPU on the battery SWI line, well, they call it's AP technically, but CPU. It has a pull-up resistor, I believe it is, internal, or maybe even has its own internal voltage divider. I can't remember what it is. But the incoming signal voltage is too high, I believe, when it comes to, or no, the resistor fails internally and it pulls it to ground, I think, or something like that. But the voltage divider takes the, no, it is, okay, I'm getting myself confused. It's too high because internally the CPU has a voltage divider that drops it down to something it can use. So what you're doing is, by doing the external voltage divider, it appropriately drops the voltage down to an acceptable level to where the AP, the CPU, can read that signal coming in and judge if the battery's at 0 or at 100%. When that line is messed up, what happens is the CPU can't tell what the battery is doing at all because the voltage signal coming in is out of its range of usable data. So it just sits there and it's like, battery's at 1%. Ever had problems with ambient light not working? Have changed flex, but same problem. The touch is glitchy. Deep Music, what model phone is that? On certain phones, the brackets where the ambient light sensor sits is not appropriately aligned, and that can cause problems. Touch being glitchy, it depends on what model it is, and I can help you there. Joshua, thanks for tuning in. This is your late night radio. He's driving home.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Alright, love you. Bye.
That phone next to your computer needs to go too. 6S Plus with touch problems. So the 6S Plus, the touch ICs are on the screen. So if you're having touch glitchiness, then the screen is the only thing it can be. Nothing. It wasn't fixable. I don't know, whatever you want to do. With the ambient light sensor, you could have a resistor or something knocked off on the board, but if you still have glitchy touch, then there's some data lines that touch goes through right below the connector. Maybe see if one of the resistors is knocked off. The only thing that comes from the screen to the phone now, so you have data lines that transfer the information back and forth from the touch ICs on the screen. So that's a possibility to cause glitchy touch. And you have power rails that go to the screen for touch. That's really it. Everything else, there's a few like enable lines for touch, but if touch is working, that means the enables have to be on, I would think. Do you have people walking in for X ghosting? No, I haven't seen many X's. It's strange for me too, never had this problem. Yeah, to me, I would assume that it was a screen problem. But I would definitely look underneath the FPC. The bottom row is all touch related. There's several resistors in there that are touch related. Look for any type of physical like tweezer damage or something. Maybe knock something loose. That's also where the proximity and the ambient light sensor stuff comes into. It's right above that. Well, below it technically. So you'll have your touch FPC row of resistors and capacitors and filters under it for the touch panel, and then below that is your front camera flex stuff, so you might have some stuff in there that has to do with the ambient light sensor or the proximity. This is almost done recovering, and then we can test it and move on to the next one. We'll do one more and then I'm going to go home. I'll finish up the rest of them tomorrow. I'm surprised as little as I've gotten to stream. The channel has still grown some. Eventually I'll get back into it pretty heavily, though. I'd like to be able to do what Lewis does. He gets to do usually one a day. What's for lunch? I already had lunch. I had leftovers from Smoky Bones last night. I had smoked wing. I had a single wing. I had smoked steak. I had smoked ribs. And I had some smoked sausages. Low carb diet. So I eat lots of meat. I've actually lost some weight already, so seems to work. Probably, yeah. Where do I buy my parts boards? Troptech. I get most of my parts boards from just buying iCloud locked phones and stuff, or water damage devices, or devices that don't turn on, drop damage, people that are trying to upgrade and the trade-in value is worth nothing. That's the main area. Water damage boards not so much unless it's like minor. Usually if it's damaged at the bottom, you can use most of the stuff at the top. What do I do to relax? Go home and hang out with Ashley and Cassidy, and then I play video games late at night where Anthony won't join me because he hates me.
He loves you. He was just telling me about he was getting his daily dose of
Don't tell him that. Shh.
He told me that.
Don't tell people that.
You told me he needed his dose of Chris.
Dose. Or watch his streams. Yeah, I watch a lot of streams.
All day.
Yep, I do.
Fine.
Does Intel or Qualcomm chipset matter? Intel chipset's far more reliable than the Qualcomm. So if you can get, you want to buy, when you buy iPhones, iPhone 7s specifically, the model number on the ones that are good is the 1778. These have the Intel chipsets in them. These are far better than the other model that has a Qualcomm. You don't want the Qualcomm chipsets, they are no bueno. Qualcomm is the only one that fails. The Intels don't fail like that. Loves me because he doesn't want to get on and play video games because he hates me. And he said I have to get up. I have to get up at 9 a.m. and be an adult. Actually, probably before that. You see me at the resting hour? Yeah. I usually get on and watch some stuff while I'm playing games. In between lulls, between games, I'll jump on people's streams and watch. Qualcomm is a bit finicky. Yep, the A1660, that is the number. Those are the ones you want to avoid. 1660 is just a time bomb waiting to happen. Alright, so this is almost completely done, and if we're lucky, this is going to be the wrong passcode, and it's just going to loop. Oh, finished. It's got a loading bar. It might actually have been the right password. 7 Plus, it goes no service rare occasion. The 7 Pluses tend to be the baseband PMIC has a failure under it, and they can sometimes be fixed. The good model on the 7 Plus, I don't know what the Intel chipset number is. I can't remember off the top of my head. Is Micah still around? Yeah, Micah's still around. He works at the other store, though. He'll probably be up here next week if he's working, though. So we'll do some streams if Micah's here. Everybody, if when Micah gets back, if he's here and we do a stream, we have to cheer Micah up. That way he's in a little better mood because he's had a hard week. This thing's still loading. It's on the progress bar. It's almost done. This is the riveting parts of stream. What was that? One of the random shields fell out of it. Oh, I see it. That's fine. Just use that activator thing. You can't pick it up. I got it. Freaking leaves. So why does the phone do that now? What do you mean, Anthony? See ya, Aaron. Okay, so it finally turned back on. We're at the hello setup screen. Let's see if we can get through setup. We should be able to, since this was just a update. It should just let me in. Continue without Wi-Fi. Yeah, I should be able to get into the phone. This was just an update. Okay, so we're in the phone. Yay. Now we'll go to audio recorder. We'll click allow. Alright, so as you can see, it's letting us record. It can hear me talking. Blah, blah, blah. We'll play that back. I don't know where there it is. Alright, so as you can see, it's letting us record. It's definitely got audio now. trace that out. We'll check the baseband. Let's go to settings, about. Okay, so modem firmware. Focus. Modem firmware is there. And then if we dial star pound 06 pound, we get the IMEI number. So IMEI is there. So this one is good to go. Gonna sell a 92 Tornado under 4,000 miles. Classic. Alright, wait for this thing to power down, and we'll throw this back in the bag and move on to the next one. Oh, what causes that? So if a phone is like having issues and then it's updated, it'll go into like data recovery. That mode is just Apple's generic way of saying we're just reinstalling the system firmware right now. Hold on a second. They're not really recovering anything. It just means they haven't deleted the user partition. I think Apple added that so that when they take it into a store and they're like, oh, my phone's not working, like, hold on, we'll have to do data recovery real quick. Let me update this phone and then I'm going to plug it in and it'll do the data recovery. It's not data recovery, you're just not erasing the user partition. It's like doing a reinstall of Mac OS X. It's not data recovery, you're just reinstalling the system. Yeah, Nebraska, I've done a few iPhone X's. I've actually got one being sent in for TriStar that I'm going to do. I really want to get one of the preheater boards, though, that's made for the X, that you just sit it on there, and then once it gets the temp, you just lift it. So what I'm thinking about doing, I've got a preheater board, but it's made for doing revolves on GPU chipsets and stuff for laptops and desktops. But I'm thinking about just putting that over here and just setting it to, like, I don't know, like 180 or 200, and just sit there and wait for it to get up to temp and then just lift it off. It'll probably work just the same. I've done it with the hot air gun, but it is a little more difficult to do that way because you have to be more consistent with the heat. With the heating pads or the preheaters like that, it's less. You don't have to be as precise because it does it all for you pretty much. Anthony, you won't lose data if you just do an install without formatting on Macs. Macs are Linux-esque based, so the way the Linux file structure is you have a user partition folder, you have a system partition folder, you have like different folders. Whenever Mac does a reinstall, it only reinstalls into the system folder. And I think it might wipe out the applications too, but it doesn't touch any of the user data. It's very handy. I wish Windows was. I wish there was a way to reinstall Windows without wiping stuff. You can, but the problem is a lot of the programs and stuff don't transfer over. And I'm pretty sure most of the Macs do transfer the programs, but sometimes they don't. Anyway. Time to do some more iPhone 7 action here. So we'll open this bad boy up if I had the right screwdriver. Over here trying to open it with the wrong screwdriver. Psst. Look in the box. The box. The black box. What are we doing, cards? Oh. Next. Look in the box. Programs and data. Yeah, John, I thought they were. I couldn't remember. I thought they did transfer the applications too, though. Huh? Did you look in the box? Good jerk. Had problems with Max not retaining Office 2011 activation. Even if I do a time machine restore or data migration, I always ask for activation. It sounds like you need to change where you're pirating your download from, Anthony. Because my pirated downloads of Office always activate and never ask for it again. Pro tip here. So on the iPhone 7s, the home button location on these is actually backwards. So normally on the well, it's not backwards technically, but it's closer to the edge on this side. So when you open these, always if you're going to put something into the phone, I always put my shim right here on the inside edge, away from the home button. This will prevent you from ever cutting or damaging the home button. And I just put, this is one of those really thin metal fish. Like everybody talks about, like this is the iFlex. The iFlex is pretty flexible, but it's not this thin flexible. These things are amazing. I need to buy more of these. Didn't sell anything. Well, I sold one thing. That Dell. That Dell laptop, the old one. Yeah, that lady came in. I think I still have some cash in my wallet too. I have to check. What's the iFlex alternative called? I don't know what it's called per se, honestly. It's made by this one's from Union Repair, so it's just stamped with theirs, but I don't think there's anybody in particular that makes them. I know for US people, Jim, what's Jim's last name? It's terrible. But Jim, the guy, you probably know him, he's on the repair forums. He has a bunch of these for sale, and I'm pretty sure they're probably from China. I mean, everything is, but these things are super flexible, and you can hear how thin it is. Like it's borderline, like almost too thin to be useful, but it's like perfectly thin. Like these are great for iPads, great for iPhones. Like you can slide in under things really easy. Shims from Union Repair. I don't know if you call them a shim or not. I call them a shim. Is thinner always better? I guess so. It is in this situation. Look at Anthony trying to blame his pirated copies of Office on other people. Go. Now she's open. We'll take her apart. It was with a bunch of other stuff. Shimadooter. Yep, that's pretty much the official name. Honestly, I would say the thickness 0 is probably aluminum can thickness. That's probably a pretty accurate. It might be slightly thinner than aluminum can, but it's pretty close. Yeah, it's definitely a helpful tool. I don't know what it would be under. Hold on a second. I'll look myself and see if I can find out. I'm just going to type in, like, you know the Chinese, they always hype up what their tool is. It's like universal, excellent, slide in, easy tool. Like, just call it something simple so I can find it with a search. Let's see, Union Repair. First person that finds it is cool. That's the winner. You're cool if you find it. He's never paying. I ain't never scared. Attention! Unit repairs sell such, like, some things on this thing are just so unbelievably useless. Like, you would never use these parts, but they have them for sale. Has anybody found it yet? No, nobody's found it yet. Who's gonna be the cool person?
Pretty sure the last hour I had a lady sitting on her couch because she was cold. We asked about H2O and asked if she could sit down for a little.
Yeah, probably.
And I was like, sure. She looked clean though. It didn't smell or did most of her teeth. But
That's all that matters.
I was like, I didn't want to say it. I was like,
I haven't found it yet. I did find a preheater though.
What is the couch name?
Who? Cedric?
This one?
Yeah.
It had a different name.
Yeah. That's the customer's name. See if anybody in chat's found that. I'm bouncing back and forth. Jason sells them on eBay called the Magic Glass Tool. Well, goddamn it, Jason. Spectre, that's actually probably what you can search and find it. I thought you did.
It's at the house.
What are you doing with your
I
life?
haven't ordered any or I haven't bought any because I haven't
What
had time
are
to
you
go anywhere.
doing with
I've been
your
in
life?
Franklin all week.
Franklin's not that far away.
I come here after I leave.
Let's search Magic Glass Tool. I think everybody just has different names to use. Uh-oh, there's something in here called Magic Glass. No, these are nano glass protection. That's stupid cotton swab with alcohol in it. Yeah. I don't know. It's in my phone. There we go. Turned on. I don't remember. Here you go. It's on there. Put everything on there. He's cool. He's real cool. He's so cool. Let's see. Hey, Flash Fair, what's going on? Magic Glass Tool. It's like that. Not as thin and flexible. Well, then it's not the same thing if it's not the same thing. Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Where do they have this? Tools? It's gotta be under tools. Can I just look at all tools? I can look at all tools. No, I don't want to click on that. I want 128 things per page. And I want them shipped or sorted lowest. What the fuck? Cheap first. I love China. They're sorted instead of lowest price first, it's cheap first. What y'all got? You got any of that cheap stuff? They have one of those little hand air blower thingies. Those are cool. I should get one of those. Stop using compressed air. They have erasers. A dull polishing eraser. They have lots of braid. Why did this not sort? I changed it. Cheap first. I want cheap first. It's not doing it. What's high position mean? Queen Law opening tool. Is that what it is? Damn it.
What was that? Was that an 8 plus or 7 plus?
Did you really find it? I'm gonna check.
Was that an 8 plus or 7 plus?
You did find it. That is it.
Yeah, it was a 7 plus.
What?
It was a 7 plus.
Yeah, 7 plus. So it is the The Quian Lee opening tool is the name of it on Union Repair. So zero effect wins. We all suck. Everyone should donate $1 to Zero Effect. Zero Effect, you need to set up a PayPal account. Everybody's going to give you $1. Yeah, I can post a link. Of course we all remember that search. There's the link to it. Quian Lee opening tool. I don't know. I'm sure people in China that watch this are like, God, he butchers the shit out of this. I wonder if Google Translate can translate my awful Kentucky speech into something useful. He didn't give me his PayPal account yet. Surrender yourselves unto me. Zero, I owe you half of that.
Is that the only thing?
Yeah, I think so.
We have things to mail. Come on.
I was gonna mail Hilla's stuff, but I have one more phone in there I didn't see. All the other ones in there are done. But yeah, it's for the laptop back here that's liquid damaged. HP.
Oh.
The Mac keyboard came in too. I gotta do that tomorrow. It's gonna be fun.
Is it all the screws?
I don't know. I've never done the touch bar ones. I hope it screws. I've never done a touch bar keyboard before.
I wish my phone was purple.
Remember, kids, drinks don't go in keyboards. They go in your mouth. I don't know what case Mom wanted, so I just ordered a bunch of them to see. I'll just send. Okay. Usually what she does, she takes two of them because she'll wear one out and then use the other one. She will. She's very thrifty with her phones. Yep. We both have to force them to upgrade phones.
Her phone was older than your mom. My mother had a Note.
Your mom's phone is older.
It is. It's a Note Edge.
Your mom's phone went to college.
My mom had a Note 4.
My mom has a Note 4. The Note Edge is newer.
Huh?
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah,
When
one
was
generation. The Note Edge came after the 4.
Really?
Yeah, it's in between the 4 and the 5.
Okay, so they're pretty much.
So, my mom's phone is older.
Yeah, but that phone had been through at least 3 people.
What did your mom upgrade from to that though? From the Note Edge, what was she on? She was on a Samsung already, wasn't she?
Some Samsung.
My mom upgraded from my flip phone to the Note 4.
Before she got the 2 Samsung she had one of those slide phones, and she got mad at it, and she bent it in half the other way.
Yeah.
She like slid it out and turned it into
A taco. We should have tacos. We still have that taco. I don't know.
How does meat stay good after you
Chat,
cook it?
question.
And it's
If you
just
cook meat and then refrigerate it for 4 or 5 days, is it still okay to eat, or is the chances of dying high?
More than 4 days.
We're going to put our lives in your hands. Do you all say good or no?
It was
Last week, maybe 7 days.
at least probably.
Chat's going to vote on if we eat it or not.
Who?
The chat.
Chad. I thought you said Chad.
Chad's going to vote on
Who
it.
the hell's Chad?
Chad, are you in chat right now?
I trust Anthony.
Greg says
He
it's
won't
fine.
let me die.
Anthony's vote carries 2 votes since Ashley's putting her vote on Anthony. It's turkey meat. It's been cooked. Do a cat test. If the cats will eat it, it's good. Cats eat dead things.
No, my cats are very picky. Benji is the pickiest, but he does like grilled meat.
Yeah, we can feed our cats raw meat. They'll eat that. So.
I have raw meat for them. I just need to thaw it.
Can you repeat the question? So Anthony, we have taco meat that we made with turkey about a week ago. It's been in the refrigerator inside a sealed Tupperware.
It's not in Tupperware. It's in a bowl.
Never mind. It's in a bowl with a hairnet on.
They're made by Glad.
It's in a bowl with a hairnet made by Glad.
It's like one of those little...
And we need to know if it's safe to eat or not. And you have 2 votes because Ashley said that she trusts your vote that you won't let us die. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I've had listeria before, and I don't want salmonella.
But how do you know?
It's not really a hairnet. It's like one of those,
It's a Glad.
like Glad bowl saver thingies. You stretch around it, and it seals to the edge. It looks like a hairnet, though.
Yeah. It's a hairnet for food.
The temperature of the fridge is 40 degrees. It was lower, but everything was freezing inside of it. So we turned it up a little bit.
Anthony says reheat and eat.
Reheat and eat.
Unless in the taco.
Before I die, I want to dine at the one American Pink taco stand.
You know Tracy's not going to trust it.
No. She's probably already had 3 biscuits or something. Every time we're gone, she's probably in there. She has a hidden loaf of bread somewhere, and she just eats it.
Eating bread.
She's like, I ain't doing this stupid diet. Press and seal? No, it's not press and seal. It's more like stretch and seal. You stretch it around, and then you let. Just imagine a hairnet, but it's made of plastic, and you just put it over the bowl, and then you just let it go. Listeria is also from eating lettuce that comes from Mexico that's been peed on or shit on. Because I've gotten it. It's not fun.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a stream you have that's talking about you peeing out your butt.
Yeah, there probably is a streamer. Kids, peeing out your butt's not cool. If you pee out your butt, you're not cool. Anthony's got no too. Anthony doesn't have Fortnite though. Can't play a fucking game. What? Well, yeah, cross contamination with fecal matter. Obviously, you'll get listeria. Well, Kroger should have told me that before I ingested it. At least they gave me a coupon next time I checked out.
They let us know while we were sick.
Hindsight's always 20/20. I agree, Spectre. I don't blame them. I would have taken a shit in the field too. The bag says pre-washed. It was not. Free listeria coupon. That's what it was. It was a, but it was a coupon for more fucking lettuce that was just gonna kill me. But they had a coupon there for more lettuce. Why do I want to buy more of it?
Like, you shouldn't have ate that.
Don't eat it. Like, thanks for telling me a week after I ate it.
Said if you fix his iPad without breaking cables, he'll play Fortnite.
It's not my fault that he broke pins on the charge port in the first place.
He's the other guy.
Anthony's always has the other guy. He has no name. He's just the other guy. The Wilmington guy breaks it all.
I need a picture. It was a battery connector.
It was a battery connector. It was broken, and I had to remove the board to fix it.
Brian.
His name's Brian.
He gave a last name too.
Well, we can't say that on stream. That'll get in trouble. That chip slipped, so I want to see if it's broken at all. I don't see anything. It looks fine. It's got flux on it, but no chips in it. So we'll leave that there. Listerine, that's what it was. You got a butt chug Listerine. That fixes listeria. Fix your listeria with Listerine. Or as Mr. Kavanaugh would say it, boofing. Do some boofing action. Just move your flux around. Just. I think this is like the Lewis Rossman equivalent of flux for iPhones. I mean, it's covering like a third of the board. Alright, come back, board. I need you. So for those watching this, an hour and 30 minutes in, if you made it this far in the video on YouTube once this uploads, what I'm doing here is I'm running a solder ball across these pads to pick up the old solder, and the solder ball is made of leaded solder. Do not rub the board. We don't need to rub the pads off the board. We're just trying to pick up all the excess solder that's there. And that's your helpful tip for those made it an hour and 30 minutes in. How bad do you think that bathroom smells? It's supposed to diarrhea all over the walls. Spectre, we went on a skiing trip one time. I probably told this before, but it's worth mentioning again. We went on a skiing trip one time, and we stopped at a gas station on the way there because one of my friends had a severe case of the diarrheas coming, and he had to take a shit really bad. And he actually didn't make it to the bathroom. He sharted a little bit, and we pull over to this gas station. He gets out and he just runs, but you know how people run when they have shit in their pants? Like he kind of waddled in with his pants like kind of clenched in the rear, and makes it into the bathroom. He's in there for like 5 minutes, comes back out, and no, he didn't eat turkey. And he's like, oh my god. I'm like, what? I was like, it was bad. He's like, well, I threw my underwear away. And I was like, well, that's good. He's like, but the bathroom, he's like, I walked in, and one of my other friends went in not too long after he did, because he had to use the bathroom too. And he was like, I walked in, he's like, and there was shit everywhere. He's like, I had to brace myself against the wall and against the sink to shit over the toilet so I wouldn't touch it. He's like, there was shit on the seat and on the back of the fucking toilet and on the floor.
They eat at the same place?
I don't know. And he's like, it looked like somebody had just peed all over the floor. And he's like, I had to go. He's like, I had no choice. I just had to go. And then our other friend comes out right after that. He didn't even tell him. He comes out and he's like, oh my god, what the fuck happened in there? He's like, did you do that? He's like, no, it was like that when I came in. He's like, it's so fucking gross. He's like, I just stood away from the toilet and pissed into it.
Let's go see what that give more splash.
I mean, it's already all over the floor.
Let's put it outside.
Do you leave him in the toilet? No, I threw him in the trash. It's just the funniest thing. Like, his reaction when he came out was just, it had me dying. He just got in the car, he was like, oh my god. Like, he'd just seen somebody get murdered. Probably one of the funniest shit stories I've ever heard. The second funniest shit story is Kenneth, our dog. Every now and then she'll refuse to go poop, and then when she goes to sleep at night, she has a little nugget sneak out in her bed. She doesn't even know it until she wakes up. She's got the old lady poops. The best thing ever was, though, one time she shit on her bed. Like, just a little hard, dry nugget of poop. And she got up, and she didn't even realize that it had happened. She just walked away. This is our dog, too, that we're talking about. To reiterate that. And one of our cats walked over and thought it was a toy and went to sniff it and hit it, and then realized it was shit. Yeah, he touched his nose to it, and then immediately ran away. Alright, so let's run some jumpers and be done with this one. So that's the entertaining story of the night right there. This is my other friend. I'll have to listen to it later. I'll probably get a copyright strike or something. It's funny as we get older, shit. Talking about shit is still funny.
I'm talking to Anthony on both of my phones now.
Why are you on both of your phones?
Because I had to send him pictures that I have the same face on both of them. He called it shit. It's flip case. And he asked me if I knew how much the screens were. He knew it.
This pad came off.
What's it?
It's still kind of there. What do you think, guys? Leave the pad under the jumper or take the pad off? I think it'll stay. No, it didn't stay. I lied. So we gotta make our own pad here. That's the pad that usually breaks on these that causes the audio IC issues, and that's exactly why it comes off. It's just a really bad, fragile pad. It's just not. It's not a good solid connection. So we'll make our own pad now. Cell phone stop. How you doing? How you doing? Neighbor has chickens. Hear the rooster every day at 5 a.m. If you all want a funny video, I watched it today. I've watched it a few times. It always cracks me up. There's a guy that streams on Fortnite. His name's Nick Merckx. And they do, like, there's several of these. It's nothing new. But they do one called Nick Merckx Alexa. So the Alexa commercial, and people dub over, like, different quotes and stuff on it. But Nick has a bunch of really funny quotes. And his Alexa commercial is probably one of the funniest ones, and the alarm clock is the one that really gets me. So if you ever want to... It may not be as funny to some people because you kind of have to watch his stream every now and then to kind of understand who he is as a person, but it's pretty funny to me. Alright, so I got my loop there for my new pad. And I want to try to reconnect this. So I want to hold my jumper down in place. Still didn't connect. I may have to cross the wire to get it to connect. Sometimes it will. Yeah, there it goes.
I do like the camera on this phone. It's so good. It's so nice.
There we go. Now we'll do our next jumper. The other pads usually never come off. It's just that first one there. And that's the problem child. That's what causes all the audio IC problems. These other jumpers are kind of anecdotal. They're really not, I don't think 100% needed. Actually, that one came off too. Did it? No, it didn't. Never mind. I was like, did that one really come off? Usually, none of the other pads usually come off of these. Okay, that one's on. Out of focus. Oh, sorry. There you go. Bowl of pasta salad, extra Caesar dressing, non-creamy. Have you a Caesar salad with some chicken? Make sure our wire is tinned. Undervaluing of a specialized scale.
Yeah. He said, God bless the head. That's what I was about to tell him.
Yeah, one of the guys on the forums the other day where that dude had a bunch of the phones for sale that had audio problems and asked if anybody wanted to fix them. He was like, I'll do them for bulk for $40. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, you're going to make less than $1 a minute for what you're doing for a specialized repair that Apple only offers an out-of-warranty replacement cost for. I was like, I get given a discount for big orders, but $40, that's not even really worth doing them. Because you accept more risk than you do anything doing that many. If you mess one up, do you have to replace it? I guess in his policy, you probably don't. You just roll on with it. I don't know. I just don't understand why people take something that requires some amount of skill and they just devalue it immediately. Like, I get it. A lot of people do board repair now. But it's still a specialized skill. We don't have to compete with each other so much that we drive our prices into the ground. If they don't have an option in the third-party microsoldering community, they have no option at all, other than Apple. Yeah, I've seen it zero effect. Sometimes I feel like it's... I mean, I know that type of Tourette's exists, but I think sometimes she might intentionally do it too. I've known a few people that have had Tourette's that have had different tics and stuff. Yeah, he does. One of my friends growing up had it too. He would always blink his eyes and then shake his head. Okay, I'll be done with this here in a minute.
I guess I'm gonna get up early and go to National Wireless.
What do you?
I guess that goes at 7.
Remind me in the morning. I have to go by the Scrubs place too. Their new computer has given them 2 overheating warnings now.
Okay. I have all the money in my purse. Do you have more money?
Yeah, I think so.
I might just do that.
Why? So you can get robbed tonight?
Maybe. I'm on a shopping spree tomorrow.
No, never mind.
No.
Deposit it all.
Okay. Alright. I'm gonna take this home since we have tape at home.
Alright.
See you there.
Love you.
Guess we're gonna eat week-old taco meat.
There's that computer too, Cameron.
Which one?
The little mini computer. That box.
Oh, for the shop?
Yep.
Oh, wait, are you gonna take that for
I gotta pack. I'll just have to come down here in the morning anyway, so I'll pack it up in the morning.
Okay, that would be cool. That would feel like fancy.
You fancy, huh?
And then maybe the coffee shop guy will see how fancy it is, because we were talking about it today, and then he'll want you to install it.
Alrighty.
Like, you know the downtown thing they have down there that we were going to do, and then we didn't? And I walked over and I thought they were closed because they didn't have that little sign out. And he was like, no. He said, we just quit paying. He was like, it wasn't worth it. He said,
No.
we never post anything.
You talking about the...
Like their downtown district.
Well, whatever it is. Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, he said it was not worth it.
No, they're not. They're never worth it. They're only worth it if you're like a big business that does like services that some of the other companies may use. A lot of them don't really source anything local.
Snacks for AT&T and T-Mobile.
Okay.
And I've got to make like small barbecue cards. That'll be cute. Alright.
I'll see you at the house. Warm up our toxic meat. So I'm just kind of pushing this pad back a little bit, make sure it's sitting where I want it. And then I'm just taking my razor blade and lightly just kind of scraping the top of that jumper wire. What that does is it gets rid of some of that solder there and it exposes that copper and makes sure that the wire is a little flatter. Chat's gone quiet, nobody's talking. Everybody's concentrating. Alrighty, so turn the camera so it's oriented, right? This stand, the only thing I don't like about it is where it's got this swivel point, which I wish it was rigid. I'm almost thinking about welding it, because I don't ever need this to turn, but it always turns, like the whole bar turns. And I've tried tightening it down and it still does it, but the weight of the scope, you can see it's actually moving right there. Here, I'll lift it up where I use it and let go, and it moves on its own. So, I'm thinking about welding that piece together so it stops turning. Because what it ends up doing is it distorts it because one side of the camera is slightly higher than the other, so it puts out of busy with the misses. Patient 0 for zombie outbreak after eating toxic meat. Eating your healthy yogurt. Ashley's part of the chat. Just consider her part of the chat. So when she talks, we're just talking amongst each other. Alright, so got a little bit of hair in there. Burn that out. Load up my tweezers. Found my other tweezers. Where the fuck did I put them? These will do. So again, I'm not touching the actual chip. I'm just going to run the solder ball across it. Okay. That should be good enough to reball. I think I'm officially out of alcohol now. Let's see. Any more in there? Oh, there's a little more. I ran out of my 99% yesterday, and I've been using my 70%, but now I'm almost out of my 70% too. How many times have you tried to tin with a hair? Maybe once that I thought it was a wire, like it was one of my hairs off my head that was thick enough to confuse me, but some of these wires are so, or some of these hairs are so thin you can tell they're a hair. But usually I can catch it pretty quickly, the difference by looking at them. Looking at hair under the microscope though is really cool. Also, you can look at wounds. Like here's where I cut myself with a knife. Look at it, it looks gross. Ew! Look, it's still spread open, so you can see down in there. It cut pretty deep, but it's finally healing up. That's what happens when you're cutting a chicken leg open and you cut too fast because your knife's too sharp. I've scooped up all the hot tweezers, nothing left. To me, it would be amazing if somebody didn't make a third-party one for them because they're not an overly complicated design. It's not worth it, Chris. Don't worry, Spectre. I'm going to start with my fingers and cut them off one by one. Slowly, though. I'm going to let them heal in between. Until one day it's just my head here talking. As long as no pus squirts out. Yeah, there's no pus in there. I packed it full of Neosporin the night that I cut it. I kept it, I kept changing bandages every couple hours on it. Keep it clean. It's healed up relatively quickly. Okay, so I got my paste in. I do need to order some new stencils. I think I'm going to get those, the black stencils. They look pretty good. I don't know if they're made out of any different material or they're just black, but they seem to hold up better to the heat. So maybe it's, maybe they're made out of a different material. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the black coating on them absorbs heat faster and transfers it into the chip, so they reball easier. I don't know. I mean, these don't reball bad. Missed the corner over here. But these are starting to flex. Like this, these stencils I've used for over a year now. Almost 2 years, actually. That one ball is not taking. I'm trying to get it to melt. I'm going to have to put flux in it. There's a contaminant underneath that that's keeping that ball from sitting down in there. It's probably not going to take. Whatever is below it is stopping it. Oh, there it goes. Took it. The cheap ass eBay hot tweezers, I have no clue if they're any good. Still not comfortable with audio IC jobs. I feel I tried all the precautions and still have signal issues. The main thing is you want to, if you scroll back through this video, if you didn't join us earlier, scroll back, look at the method for removal. So I use a drop method where I hold the chip and allow the board to fall away. That's going to keep your temperatures low, so when you take it off, you don't get the baseband too hot. And then when you go to put back on, always reball with leaded. It prevents you from having to heat the board up as much to put the chip back on, and there's just less hassle. You can use a board preheater. That can help by using the lead free with a board heater. That'll get the board up to temp, and that way the lead free will melt down easier. But I just prefer to rock the old leaded balls on these things because it's such a low melting temperature. You can work this into place. You'll know it sits down in place, and it does give you a more flexible joint. The leaded solder is a little more forgiving to stresses because it's a little more malleable than lead free. Lead free has a higher strength, but it also is more fragile, so it does crack easier. Where leaded has a lower strength, but it has a better elastic property to it, so it can deform without actually fracturing. The 898D plus hot tweezers, if they're like the ones I'm thinking, they're shit. They're not micro. Alright, so time to put our chip on. Okay, I can't use this chip. Okay, so here's a good example of what's going on. So does anybody see what's wrong with this chip? There's a reason I can't use this chip anymore. It's because the stencil flexed when I was reballing it. So somebody tell me what's wrong with the chip and why I can't use it now and I have to use a different one. Yeah, it is cracked. That is true. So what happened was where my stencil flexed up on me when I was reballing it, the chip gets caught in that and it breaks it. So even though this chip is one piece right now, like on the bottom side, it doesn't look broken. It is fractured part of the way through, and that would cause issues. So if I push right here where this crack is in the top, you'll see the audio IC will split. See? It just splits right in half. And you can actually see the tracing down here on the bottom where this is actually a film on the bottom of the chip. See the film right there? That's where all the solder balls connect and then connect to the chip. So that one is no good. Just run micro jumpers? Yeah. I removed it wrong? No, I didn't remove it wrong. That was removed correctly. What the fuck did I grab? I grabbed a PMIC for basement. I don't need that. I need audio. Big audio IC. Yeah, those chips are made of glass. So they're silicate. So this one is one you get from like Mobile Centrics or Micro Soldering Supply or any of those. These chips are actually used. They're not new. If you look at them, see the corners of these are a little chipped already. And if you look at the other side, these are actually reballs. Somebody's reballed this already, but they reball it with lead free. And I don't like working with lead free just because of what we were talking about with signal problems. So we're going to go ahead and reball this again, but we're going to do it leaded. It's not a big deal. They are cheap, but any cost savings that you can get helps you in the long run. If you add up the amount of money you save by just reusing chips, you'd be surprised how much it is, especially with like touch IC and stuff. The amount of touch ICs I've done, I've probably saved over $2,000 worth of chips just by reballing. Leaded is the bee's knees, yep. Leaded is dangerous for your health, but it is far better. Alright, so I'm out of that alcohol. I'm gonna have to go to ethyl alcohol, and it sucks. Ethyl alcohol does not, it leaves a film behind. I don't like it very much, but that's all I got right now. I gotta stop and get some more alcohol. I need to order some more. I should have ordered them before I got this low. I usually buy the giant bottles on eBay. They last me like a year. Tastes great, ethyl. You use it running in your car. It said the same thing about asbestos, all lies. Yeah, pretty much. That and histoplasmosis. I mean, I don't know why people make that a big deal either. Just go breathe in some bird shit. Alright, so we got that back on. The one thing I wish they would do with these stencils is make them a little deeper, like where you put your actual solder. That way when you pull it from the stencil, it may be a little more difficult to remove from the stencil, but when you go to reflow these after you pull them, your balling size will be a little larger. So the only drawback that I've noticed to these stencils is whenever you reball them, the balling size is slightly undersized from what they are originally. So the balling size that's going to be here after I'm done is about a 0.2 millimeter. Where original ball size is more like a 0.25 or maybe even a 0.3 in some cases. 0.3 is a little large, but a 0.25 would be probably a closer size to what these are. Okay, reballed. Got our chip there. Put a little flux on it. We'll reflow it. Okay. Now I need to find my orientation. So orientation is this way. For the way I'm putting it back on the board. Orientation is always relative to the direction of the board it's sitting in. Don't go by what you see if it doesn't match up. Why not use tissue paper for a little suspension? I do cell care, but actually it can cause a little more flex in the shielding. I usually use on larger chips a piece of paper towel that's folded over. It does help keep it against the chip easier because the chip can kind of sink down and the metal stays a little flusher, but it can also promote more flexing in the actual stencil too. But I do use paper towel every now and then on larger chips, especially if my stencil's giving me problems where the chip is flexing out of the stencil too much. If you ever watch a lot of the guys from China and Taiwan and stuff that do this, and like these backwoods places and stuff that you would never think are doing board repair, they use, one of the guys I watch is iFixit VN. He's from Vietnam, and he works on an old pair of jeans all the time as his heat resistance and kind of his padding for whenever he's working on stuff. Okay, so this chip's not sitting exactly right like I want it to. I'm going to let it calm down for a second, and then I'm going to reflow it again. Okay, so it bounced back. As you can see, like, the stuff around this never gets up to melting temperature. It's only the chip here because it's got that leaded solder. Now, this chip didn't sit exactly the way I was hoping initially, so I want to see if it looks level. It does look level. Yeah, it's level. Okay. It said a little weird for me at first, so it was kind of weird. Spectre, I'm sure somebody could. But, I mean, these are great. I mean, the 3D stencils, I think, were a huge step up in quality for reballing. The regular flat stencils just are really hard to deal with sometimes. Especially since the chip has nothing to really hang into, so it can kind of move around on you. And that's the more annoying thing about reballing than anything, is just making sure that once you apply paste, that it stays in place. One trick that I've seen people do before is before they reball on those ones that aren't 3D style, that are the normal flat style, they'll solder a solder ball in each corner of the chip and then place the stencil on top so it can't move whenever they paste it. That's a pretty good idea, but the 3D stencils kind of take care of that for you. I got some of that alcohol in my mouth when I was scrubbing it. It's very bitter. Very, very bitter. Remember, kids, don't talk and scrub. Okay. Now we need to scrub this down. Make it look nice and pretty. Get rid of all of the excess smudge that's left over. Okay. Looks good. Let's test it out. Probably gonna taste better than taco meat. That's probably the damn truth right there. If it poisons me, I'm gonna start streaming from my toilet at home. Who's gonna tune in? The worst thing I've ever gotten sprayed in my eyes was gasoline. We were working on a buddy's car, and not thinking, we had turned the key on and we're testing, and we found a leak in one of the injector O-rings. So we turned the key off and we weren't thinking about it, so we go to pull the fuel rail, and even though it had a small leak in it, it still was holding pressure. It was still at like 14 or 15 psi, and we pulled the fuel rail off, and 15 psi of fuel sprays out directly into our eyeballs. And I've never felt something so weird in my life as to the feeling as when the gasoline evaporates off your eyeball, it becomes like extremely dry and almost sticky, and my eyelids were sticking to my eyeball. I was like flushing my eyes with water, and then I put like contact drops in, trying to get them to moisten back up. Alright, this battery's dead, so I need to pop in a good battery just so I can test this out. PayPal you $500 for a private video of me pooping. Oh shit, I'll do that all day, Anthony. I'll send you pictures of this shit for $25 a piece if you want. Alright, so we'll see if this boots up normally here, or if I've got to redo this. I don't think I do. It looked like it set down okay. If you do have to redo the chip, no big worries. Just pull it off, reball it again, stick it back on. I might have to redo this one. It didn't sit quite exactly like it should have, but I thought it settled down. Nope, it turned on. Alright, so we're at the setup screen. Let me run through setup real quick. Make snow angels on the wall? No, I'm good. I don't want to have to do anything I have to clean up. Set up his new iPhone. I don't have an Apple ID. I do. I lied. Continue, continue, continue. Can Apple have your kidneys? Yes. Do you want to tell them where you can get the kidneys? Yes. Start iPhone. Sweet. Alright, so voice recorder. Oops, wrong button. So it's recording. As you can see, we're recording sound. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. So it's recording. As you can see, we're recording. So we got playback. We're going to go in and delete that. And we are done. Let's check our baseband. Okay, so firmware is there. Modem firmware, yay. Okay, and then we'll do IMEI check. IMEI shows up, yay. So we're all good. We're good to go. That's 2 iPhone 7s down and 5 to go. Well, 3 down and 5 to go. But I will finish the other 5 tomorrow. Actually, it's 4 to go. Excuse me, my math is terrible. Even more of an excuse for me to go home. Turn off my hot air here. Anybody got any questions while the hot air cools off? iPhone 6 with baseband short. It heats when I reball. Put it back and device does not turn on or show any shorts. Does not start. What do you mean by baseband short? What was it doing? Was it PMIC was shorted, or was it baseband CPU that was shorted? I'm pretty sure the 6s will start up even if baseband's not on. Latest firmware updates are a complete mess. I haven't even tried yet. Baseband CPU was short. Where was it shorted? Like baseband CPU was getting hot? And if it was, what was causing it to get hot? Was it liquid damage? Check out my screws. See you, Anthony. No problem, Greg. Appreciate you all coming and watching. Waiting to see what. No liquid damage. Okay, so you're saying baseband was getting hot, and there's no shorts. Baseband usually doesn't get hot unless it's fried internally, without liquid at least. Whenever you put baseband back on, I'm going to show you on another board where I test to see if I think baseband's going to work, because there's only a few power rails that feed it. So here's an iPhone 6. So on baseband, when you get done doing baseband, what I check is this cap, this, this, these, this. These caps down here, they're all on the same power rails, but just check them anyway, whatever. Here and here. So check the caps that go all the way down and around baseband. If any of these, while they're cooled down, when they're hot, some of these will beep on both sides. But when they're cool, these should not beep on both sides. You should only have ground on one side. So if I go through here, I don't know what this one's going to read, because it's obviously been fucked with. But, so there's no short there. See, ground, no short. No short, ground. No short, ground. No short, ground. Ground, no short, ground. No short, ground. No short, ground. Ground, no short. So you just want to go cap by cap, and you're just testing. One side on the cap should be ground, one should be power. It won't beep on one side when it's power. So that's one thing you can do. If you reballed baseband properly and it's no longer getting hot, then my guess is you had to have had some type of liquid under it. If it was getting hot and you reballed it and now it's not, I would check your reball, because you may not have a good connection under it and the chip may still be bad. Usually if chips get hot internally and there's no obvious damage around them, it means the chip itself is bad. Like if you don't have a short on the line but the chip gets hot, the chip is usually the fault. But usually you'll have a short associated with that. So I would definitely check all the caps around it. If it's a 6, you should be able to pull baseband completely off and turn it on, and it should boot. It just won't have any. It won't have any modem firmware. I did a 6 Plus earlier today that I took baseband completely off and booted it up, and it booted right up. Anyway, that's gonna end the stream here. Third coil after the screw hole fried and smoked. If a coil smoked, that means you had a short on the output of the coil. So I would almost guarantee. So which one was it? Was it one of these? Third coil after the screw hole. So this one. So let's look on ZXW. So I'm thinking you had a internal short to baseband that fried something. That would be my guess. I'll get this pulled up and I'll switch you all over to my view. Alrighty, let's switch it. Schematics. Okay, so iPhone 6 Plus or 6? iPhone 6. Yeah, you can't replace baseband. It is tied to the board. Alright, so third coil here was smoked. So that is a power that goes to baseband. and that is more than likely generated by the baseband PMIC. So if I select, so if I look at the two sides, one side says PPVSWS1 and the other side says VREG. So the output is the VREG side and the input is the VSW side. That means it's a variable switch pretty much. So what happens is, if you look over here, this is the output from baseband PMIC. It's using that coil to build probably some type of inductance to kind of control voltage and smooth it out, clean it up for baseband, and then it's outputted to baseband. So you do have a lot of caps here, and it looks like this might be some type of return. Yeah, this is a return, so this does some type of boost switching or something, probably inside of PMIC. It's actually a voltage step down, I think. Let me see. What's the output of this line? Okay, yeah, so that's an internal step down converter. It has a internal step down. You could have a bad PMIC since it is a step down voltage controller, because it's taking 4 volts and dropping it to 0.9. So try replacing baseband PMIC and see if it doesn't work. Yeah, you shouldn't have ever done software. That's not, hardware solutions aren't fixed by software solutions. Your reason you're stuck now is because it can't see the baseband. I would start by replacing PMIC. You can replace this chip on the back side of the board right here. You can replace this guy. So replace this guy right here. See if any of these caps here are shorted, anything here shorted. Also make sure you replace this coil. I hope you did. And then if you do all that and there's no shorts, reball baseband again, put it back on and see if you have a short. If there's no shorts at all, then try it again. You don't need a thermal cam to find what's getting hot. You can use your face. That's what I do. That or freeze spray. Buy you a bottle of the freeze spray stuff. I don't know if y'all can even see that. Let me see here. Yeah, you can see it. So buy you a bottle of the freeze spray stuff, and you can find shorts with this real easy. Anyway, I'm going home before I make a mess over here, and I will see you all later. Hopefully starting Monday, if Mike is here, we'll do some streams during the day. I don't know what I did with my bag of boards. Oh, there they are. But I will see you all later. You all have a good night. Thank you all, whoever donated. I really appreciate it. And I will talk to you all later. See ya.